Opening day is almost here, so it's time for the first rookie report of the 2024 fantasy baseball season. This is a good time to circle back, look at the top prospects and possible instant impact rookies to see who's up and who's down, and by that I mean who made the squad and who didn't. And we got to start with the number one prospect, depending on who you ask, that is. But in a lot of people's eyes, toward the end of last season, it was Wyatt Langford, and he could carry that mantle throughout this season, and he's officially made the Rangers opening day roster. There really would have been some outrage if he didn't, because he's on fire this spring. Not only is he going to be on the roster, he should be starting, and he could be hitting fifth in that lineup. There was some concern that guys like Corey Seager and Josh Young wouldn't be ready for opening day, but it now looks like they are fine. This is going to be another stacked lineup, just like last year. Langford and fellow rookie Evan Carter are both going to be great draft picks. Of course, if you're already drafted and you missed out, well, this might be your last chance to buy low. But according to MLB.com and a lot of other people's prospect list, Jackson Chourio of the Brewers is the number one guy, and he's definitely going to be on the opening day roster. Makes sense because they just extended him for 8 years and $82 million. This is becoming more common to see guys before they even make a dent in the majors or sometimes even play at the major league level to get these fat contracts. Chourio looks like he will be deserving of it, but now he's got 8 years to prove it. Of course, no question about the tools and the talent and the opportunities there. He's going to be starting. He's already shown off his glove with some spring training highlights. Hasn't quite got the power there yet, but again, spring training doesn't matter. It might take a little time before he really rounds into form, but obviously somebody worth having right now. But not good news for all top prospects. A lot of people think Jackson Holliday of the Orioles is the main guy, and he's going to have to wait to prove it because, believe it or not, he's not in Baltimore to start the season. They sent him down with a week to go. He really did everything he could to show that he deserves to be in the majors right now, but we know how this goes, and unfortunately, he is in the wrong spot, meaning Baltimore's a team that has so much talent on offense, so much young talent, they really don't need him right now. There's some small outrage here and there about him not making it, but look, this isn't surprising. Still very young. He's not going to be down too long, I don't think. And so I would say right now, if you're in a league that does have NA spots where you can stash a prospect, somebody who's in the minors, obviously he's worth it. He's still got drafted in a lot of leagues I saw even after this announcement was made. And so don't forget about him. And he could be up as soon as May. And some more Baltimore prospects to discuss. It looks like Colton Cowser did play his way onto the roster with a hot spring. Think spring training doesn't matter. This is a case where it did. Cowser was on fire. As of right now, in his first 46 spring training at-bats, hit .304, 6 home runs, and 13 RBIs. Now, he won't be starting, at least not right now, but obviously this is a team that could go in any direction. There's going to be some at-bats for him here and there. Look, Cedric Mullins, I'm not convinced that he is A, going to stay healthy, and B, going to be in the lineup all season long. This team has so much young talent, they don't need to afford to continue to play veterans who are not going to be up to par. So Cowser right now, I don't say he's worth having on a fantasy baseball roster unless it's a deeper league. Now with Cowser winning a roster spot, someone had to lose out, and that was Heston Kjerstad, more of a power-hitting prospect. But he didn't show it this spring, didn't hit a single home run, and had 12 strikeouts to only 1 walk. I mean, you think about Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, Connor Norby, so many rookies in Baltimore that could make an impact if they were somewhere else. They're just going to have to bide their time and wait. So right now, Kjerstad is one of the losers. But you know who did make the cut and also has already made an impact this season? That's right. Jackson Merrill, another one of those Jacksons. He made the roster and he's the starting center fielder. Now, this is odd because he's a shortstop by trade and you think he'd play somewhere in the middle infield. They are set there with Xander Bogaerts and Ha-Seong Kim. But there's a spot in outfield for him. This is a player who's got great defense, and so he can play in the outfield, which is nice because now in fantasy he qualifies at shortstop, and he will get that outfield eligibility as well. In those first 2 games of the Soul series, the Padres, which do count unless you drafted afterwards, well, he went 2 for 8 and scored 2 runs. Merrill isn't somebody who I expect tremendous offensive output from. He's really more of a hit over power kind of guy. He'll steal some bases, but again, he's not really what you call a speedster. So I wouldn't get as excited about him as some of the other players we've already talked about, but Merrill is someone who will definitely accumulate at-bats, should help you with average, and score some runs. Someone who won't be helping you out is Jordan Lawler in Arizona. His stock definitely takes a hit because he was sent to the minors before the season. Looks like the Snakes are going to go with Geraldo Perdomo again at shortstop. He was a starter last season. But all in all, this is going to be Lawler's job eventually. The question is how long. But right now, Lawler, I wouldn't even stash him unless it's a keeper or dynasty league. All right, let's get to some pitchers. Matt Manning is not. This is somebody who got sent down. Didn't make the cut, but is also somebody that you might want to keep an eye on. He's had some injuries, just like every Tiger pitching prospect there is. That also goes for Sawyer Gibson Long. Someone I thought was a nice sleeper. He's probably going to start the season on the injured list. So those 2 guys kind of lost out. But don't forget them over the long term. And then same thing with Jackson Jobe. He's a pitcher who will need a little more seasoning in the minors, but he might be the most talented out of all of these. Another young right-hander whose stock went way up because he also made the rotation is Max Meyer of the Marlins. Marlins definitely have a tradition of bringing young pitchers along and then trading them to other teams okay, I've said this before. Max Meyer right now is one of the most added players among all these leagues that have already drafted because some people weren't sure if he would make the rotation. Yuri Perez, elbow soreness, still not quite sure what the issue is there. Braxton Garrett has also had a little bit of issue. Edward Cabrera, this Marlins rotation already without Sandy Alcantara, and they've been decimated by injury before the season starts. So Meyer is getting his shot. I am big on Meyer. I've talked about him in one of my sleeper videos, so I think he's worth a pickup. Another riser is Ceddanne Rafaela of the Boston Red Sox. I've also talked a ton about this Boston outfield, some great value between Jarren Duran, Masataka Yoshida, even though he's the DH, and also Tyler O'Neill, I think is a nice late round pick. Well, now Rafaela is in the mix, but here's the good thing. He also could be a middle infielder. He qualifies in a lot of leagues at either second base or shortstop, and he actually might play second base because Vaughn Grissom is hurt. Now, Rafaela, we know, is more of a glove-first prospect, but he's got speed, could definitely help you with some steals. But I think I underestimated his power upside because digging into his number in the minors, I didn't realize that he actually did have some pop. He's been super impressive all throughout the spring, and so he does have a chance to make an instant impact. I think he's worth a bench stash to start the season. Now, one of my lotto tickets, a late-round pick that I was trying to sneak in here and there that I'm going to have to just cut ways with is Mark Vientos. That JD Martinez signing for the Mets pretty much knocked him off. Vientos got sent down right away. Brett Baty's winning that third base job. Ji-Man Choi was released, not surprisingly. So with Martinez holding down DH probably the whole season long, assuming he stays healthy, Vientos is really going to have to show something. Now, he did show something in spring training. Vientos had 5 home runs, which led the team. But he also showed that he strikes out a ton, a .232 average, 19 strikeouts to only 2 walks. This is definitely a slugger profile, and look, there's room for that here and there, but Mets are obviously a team that needs to make up for last season, which is why they signed Martinez. So Vientos, at this point, kind of can just be ignored in fantasy. Now, there's one player who did get sent down to the minors, but I'm going to consider him a riser, and I'll explain why. So Kyle Manzardo of the Cleveland Guardians is a player that isn't going to be on the roster to start the season, but I'm still drafting him and stashing him. Well, not only because I feel like he's got great upside and could take over that first base job pretty soon, but it's interesting that really what the justification was for sending him down early was they were going to try out Rule 5 pick Davison De Los Santos and see if he could take that job. Well, he didn't because they sent him back to the D-backs already. That means it'll be Josh Naylor at first base, and they're going to slot, it looks like Will Brennan, maybe platooning with somebody at DH, like David Fry. My point is here, when service time is no longer an issue, and yes, it is still a thing for a lot of teams, Manzardo will be up. He's going to be the regular DH, or he'll go to first, and maybe Naylor DHs more often. Either way, I think it's just a matter of time before they get this bat in that lineup. And then a rookie riser who I've been all over this preseason, I'm going to call it James MacArthur, going to be super valuable because he could be the closer in Kansas City. I know they got the veteran Will Smith there, but he's one of the few lefties they have in the bullpen. Yes, he's experienced, but it doesn't mean he's going to be the ninth inning guy. MacArthur was really good in a small sample last year, but also rookie John McMillan was sent down. Veteran Carlos Hernandez is starting the season on the injured list, so MacArthur has a clear path to possibly at least a timeshare of saves. That's not the case for Prelander Berroa of the White Sox. Now, this is a still young but talented pitcher who they just got, but he's got some shoulder inflammation and he's going to be in the minors to start the season. A nice sleeper, but I think it's going to take more time before he really makes an impact. And the other interesting thing here is after this whole shakeup that the White Sox have done with their pitching is it could be Michael Kopech who is their closer because he's been pulled from the rotation. And that makes sense because he just can't seem to get his command together for more than an inning or two. Plus, John Brebbia is not hurt anymore. Jordan Leeser, who I really like, is also in the mix. All told, Berroa, I thought was a nice sleeper pick, but I think it's going to have to wait until at the very least end of the season. And finally, while there may be some sneaky value on some teams like Oakland, I mentioned a guy like Darell Hernaiz, who could be the third baseman at some point. The J.D. Davis signing has pretty much wrecked that, so don't look for too much sneaky value in terms of rookies in Oakland. Although I will just throw this out, J.D. Davis, kind of a boring veteran, that actually might be a nice value, a nice pickup. That's your preseason rookie report. Opening day is almost here. Stay tuned to Fantasy Endgame for all the weekly advice you need, waiver wires, trade, rookie report, and more. If you want to know who my favorite sleepers were and all the draft advice that you might have missed, well, check this playlist out.